Boom. There we go. We're live.
Live again.
Live again. We're back. Come on in, everybody. Look at there. There's hands.
It's good to see you, Mike.
Brandon, good to see you, Josh. Good to see you, man.
Am I freezing up yet?
No.
That's good. Well, let's hope it continues that way. I'm a little nervous. My technology is not where it needs to be, and it's because I don't have you with me, Mike.
Gay Barton is back. Gay's 28 shows. She hasn't missed a show.
Look at you tracking.
She's awesome. Her. I'm on top of it.
Is she your number one fan, Mike? And we've got Tenley here. Tenley, how's life?
Life's good. Happy to be with you.
Where are you joining us from today?
So I'm joining from Washington, D.C., where it's very snowy right out my window.
Nice. You enjoying the snow?
I love it. Yeah.
Where did you grow up in the South?
No, but I've been going down to Florida for the past 40 years, so I guess I can count that as a second home.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Mike, you're from the South. How do you like this snow?
We've got a little snow on the ground here. It's okay. Just stay inside. Not here for long, Josh.
What do you mean not there for long? Are you leaving us?
We're closing in early March. Delray Beach. We're headed south permanently. Part of the Great Migration.
Are you taking what's it called? What's Elon Musk's thing to Mars?
I'm not taking anything. I don't know. We're not that fancy.
I could totally see you going to Mars.
I think it's
working
more like
on your tan.
It's more like a U-Haul. So, all right. Let's get rocking, guys. So come on in, everybody. We got plenty of room. Come up front. Gather around. Look, there's Ashley Fish, Jennifer Pinto. Yeah, lots of a lot of familiar names and a lot of new ones too. So this is awesome. So look, let's get rolling. We're 2 after, Josh. So all right. Well, welcome everybody to the Swag Coaches Distributors Helping Distributors show. Our topic today is PPP 2. Get your share. Right. So. Round 2 of the SBA's Paycheck Protection Program opened on January 11th, and it's part of the $900 billion stimulus package approved by Congress that includes, another lifeline to help small businesses impacted by the government restrictions imposed during the COVID pandemic. This time there's new restrictions and nuances, but there's also a lot of improvements to fixes to the first program and improvements for this program. So, if you haven't applied, you probably have questions about whether you qualify, because the requirements for qualification are different. If you have already applied or maybe received funding, you might have questions on which expenses are covered and how to ensure forgiveness. That process is different this time for the better. So, given that most promotional products distributors are small business owners that have been deeply impacted by this crisis, Josh and I are super happy to have as our guest today, Tenley Carp, who is an attorney from one of the top law firms in DC and is very well versed on this program, is working a lot with small businesses. So in a few minutes, we're going to bring on Tenley and dive in and answer questions. So we're going to, as always, encourage you to give us your questions for Tenley, and we'll make sure we get those answered. I'm going to, before I turn it over to Josh, I want to ask everyone to celebrate the wins. So we love doing this. Put in the Q&A. Tell us what wins you've had since the last show. Give us some positive energy. And if there's no wins, just something you're grateful for, but put those in there. We'll call them out. But Josh, why don't you celebrate the wins? What's going on?
You probably can't even tell from the background, but this is the first snow we've gotten in 2 years in DC.
the blue snow. That's great. I noticed the beard is growing a little bit. It's gotten a little longer.
Do you like it?
Yeah. In fact, Josh, I thought we'd have some fun today, and I wanted to put up a poll if we could share. We haven't done this before.
Oh, come on, dude.
Do you like Josh's beard? And the answers are shave it now or shave it now. So anyway, I don't know, Josh. It looks like the answers are coming in fast here. I'm saying it's unanimous. It's unanimous.
I'm
going to go ahead and end that. We're 100% shave it now, Josh. So Sorry.
It's serious business to take care of, Mike. And I don't think
Okay.
we should be wasting everybody's time with this.
Sorry. Okay. All right. Sorry, Josh. So,
But I really did enjoy it.
but why don't we, it's free. It's free. So come on, free show, but why don't, celebrate the wins, and bring us up to speed.
Yeah, I mean, look, first off, I want to just say welcome everybody. I think when we started off this webinar back in March, it was to help distributors. And this topic, like no other, is about doing just that. Our first go round with the first stimulus and the PPP loans, over 50 people that attended this webinar were able to get their PPP loans. We're really, really proud of that fact and happy to pay it forward. And so hopefully we can double that this go round. Tenley's an expert. Thanks, Tenley, for joining us. And, that's really the spirit of the call here. So let's dive into it pretty soon, because I know there are going to be a bunch of questions that people have.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, put in the Q&A if you would. Tell us about your wins. What have you sold? Any deals that have come through? Something new, but let's share some positive energy. Chris Bola joined the small group coaching program. He said, I hired 2 swag coaches. Thanks, Chris. DJ said, I'm grateful still in business after such a crazy year. We had 2 contracts for PPE, one an additional contract with another county for wearables. All right. Paul Zaffarana closed a $75 online store. Okay.
Crushing it, Paul.
All right. All right.
Awesome.
Cool.
That's awesome.
So, there we go. Paul corrected. $75,000 online store. Okay. There you go. That makes sense. Cool. Well, they're quiet today. You guys, we'll have to, I'm sure the wins will come in, but why don't we, Josh, can you tell us about the small group coaching program?
I certainly
I know
can, Mike.
We've got some new developments.
Can you see my screen okay? I certainly hope that my internet lasts. I'm very nervous about it. Don't let my nerves get to you. Okay. Yeah. So, just real quickly, some of the topics we've covered for those of you that are new joining our webinar today. We've done everything from PPP loans and forgiveness. This is going to be round 2 of that. We've talked about crisis communication, rebuilding your sales pipeline, CRM systems, tax write-offs for your business. Last webinar, we had Roger Arnold, a futurist and economist, talk to us about how, the pandemic and just what the economy looks like for 2020 as it relates to our businesses. So, like I said, we're trying to cover a lot. Small group coaching. Okay, here I go. So our next class starts on February 8th, which is Monday. And small group coaching is a monthly workshop and accountability group meeting program. We get together twice a month and help you scale your sales. We've had some tremendous success from some of our participants. The program continues to grow. And if you're interested in learning more, you can fill out the poll. And Mike will get in touch with you. Again, our next class starts on February 8th. And some of the examples of the different workshops that we're running include things like sales and action planning, 90-day plan review, pricing strategies, communicating with your customers, selling company stores. That's actually coming up on our next workshop, which we're excited about, and building residual income. So lots of great ways to expand your sales group. Grow your business and make your. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay.
You're breaking up.
I'm done.
You're good. All right. Okay. Cool. Well, I'm going to put up a couple of polls here then to get this warmed up, and then we're going to bring Tenley on and start asking some questions. You guys start submitting your questions to us. First question is, did you participate in the first round, the stimulus? So PPP 1. So basically, yes or no. Let us know what you did.
Mike, did you participate?
I did.
Did you get any moolah?
I got moolah. It was great. It felt good.
Did you get it forgiven?
I got 100% of it forgiven. I'd actually applied for the initial grant, so it's supposed to be 10,000, and there was 1,000. I ended up getting 9,000, and then so that part turned into like a 1% low interest loan, but the rest of it was forgiven. It was really, yeah, it worked. And I worked with a
What
small
felt
bank
better,
and they
to
did a
get
great job.
to get the loan or get it forgiven?
Yeah, right. Yeah, right. Here we go. So, so I'll call these out. But did you participate? So yes, applied and received funding, 66%. So basically a third, 2/3 applied and got funding, and a third did not apply. Interesting. Okay. Let's do, we have one or two more here. Regarding PPP2. So I intend to apply. I've already applied. I applied and received funding, which would be really impressive. I think there's a few people. Yeah. And I will not apply. I think, Josh, you participated in both rounds, right?
Yeah, I mean, actually, I'm in the process of working through my second application, and the expectation is that I will get funded.
Yeah.
Because I'm eligible. And
Okay.
Tenley's going to talk about what it takes to get eligible and how to fill out that application. I mean, look, the reality is, and I know that some of the people on the call, I think most are independent contractors or 1099 contractors. Some people are W-2 employees and then get 1099. It's funky. I know some of the companies in our industry. So definitely ask your questions to Tenley as it relates to the status of your business. And we can try to, between the three of us, try to help you, because if you're eligible to apply, there's really no reason not to apply. I mean, this is
Right.
a program that's meant for you. You're a
Actually, Josh, I'm going to weigh in on that. Actually,
small business owner, so take advantage of it.
yeah, so
Yeah,
just one point about that is the congressional intent is to keep employees employed so that they don't go on unemployment. So if you're offering, whether you have a small business and you have 3 people, 4 people, 5 people, 12 people, if you're offering health insurance and all the benefits, the idea, even if you don't have business right now, the idea of the PPP is to keep your company alive, to keep these workers employed, including yourself, and prevent everyone from going on unemployment, because the unemployment rolls are obviously off the charts. They've swelled up, and they would rather keep your business alive just to get it through the pandemic, get it through this period, and then you'll be up and selling again, and you'll have revenue. And so this is just an interim. So the idea is definitely, if you're eligible for it, you should apply for it. That's the whole point.
That makes sense.
That's
So
interesting.
let me just, Josh, let me just close out this poll so everyone's replied to it. So it looks like only 10% said they would not apply. 10% have applied and received funding. And then the rest either intend to, 60% said they intend to apply. Another 20% have already applied. So basically, yeah, most of the people on the call haven't applied yet, but a handful have actually gotten funding already. So awesome. Okay. Well, with that in mind, let's bring on Tenley. So Tenley's a partner with Arnold, Golden, Gregory. It's a law firm, one of the top law firms in Washington, D.C. They've got offices in D.C. and Atlanta, 180 attorneys. Tenley's got over 30 years of experience. She notably was a former assistant general counsel at the U.S. General Services Administration. Tenley's also an entrepreneur, like all of us. Tenley designed web-based software, a web-based software program allowing citizens to respond to jury duty online or by phone. So you could get out of jury duty by pushing the right numbers, I guess. I don't know, but okay. And presently she's knee deep and work with clients on the PPP program. So Tenley, thanks for joining us today. So yeah,
It's the perfect group, because even understanding PPP was sort of an entrepreneurial pursuit within a law firm, because people are very steeped in what their expertise is. And this law was only passed on March 27th of 2020. So those of us who had sort of an entrepreneurial bent, who work at law firms and are attorneys at law firms, decided to jump on it. And we have a whole group at our law firm who really decided to read the law as it was passed. It was very long. And then stay abreast of all of SBA's changes to that law and all of the interim final rules and all of their guidance that's been issued through frequently asked questions. And actually, as recently as January 29th, SBA just updated some questions. They added number 40, 54, 55, 56. So, and they've told the public they are in the process of revising the first 53 FAQs. So we've all stayed abreast of all of those changes for the last 11 months, and we're trying to help companies at our law firm and your entrepreneurial group through these crazy times.
So, Tenley, what are some of the differences between the first round of PPP and the second round?
Well, the biggest difference is the revenue reduction requirement. So if you're trying to get a second PPP loan, you have to show 1 quarter, whether it's Q1, Q2, Q3, or Q4, that you had of, for example, comparing 2020, so let's say Q2 of 2020 with Q2 of 2019, you have to show a 25% or more revenue reduction. So if you stay the same, you don't have that loss, I have some clients who made money, you're not eligible to apply for that second round, that second draw is what they're calling it. And second of all, and this probably doesn't affect your group as much, but they lowered the threshold. So the size standard went from 500 employees down to 300 employees. Of course, there are different ways to measure size. You're not just stuck with those two. You can use the North American Industrial Standard Classification Code and an alternative size standard. So there are 2 other ways, but generally they went from 500 to 300 in terms of number of employees. So there were a couple of differences. And then of course there's the time difference. You have to apply by the end of March.
So the 25%, I remember I looked at this when I went through the application, and I really had to reread this several times because it was somewhat ambiguous to me, but you can take any 2 quarters, right, between 2020 and 2019. So you can look at if there was a decline in Q1 versus Q1 over the years, or you can choose any 2 quarters to compare, right?
Well, you can choose any of the 4 quarters, but the way the lenders are telling us they're reviewing it is you could look at Q1 of 2020 and compare that to Q1 of 2019, or you can look at Q2 of 2020 and compare that to Q2 of 2019.
Right.
You can look at Q3. I just wanted to be clear, but
yes,
you can't look at Q1 and compare it to Q4 of the year.
Correct.
Got to be
right. Exactly.
Why are you confusing everybody, Mike?
You know what? That's what I meant, but I just wanted to be clear about it. I was like, well, which quarters am I supposed to compare? And it's Q1, 2, 3, 4 of year over year.
Right.
So, but yeah, you got to.
The concept that they're trying they want to come up with a way to say we want to help those businesses who are economically harmed by COVID, by this pandemic. And if we look at, obviously, they're really thinking that Q2 of 2020 was when you were really hit. And if you compare that to your Q2 of 2019, that proves, look, but for the pandemic, we would have had sales that looked more like that. And that's who they want to help.
Right. But still, you're not, it's any of the quarters. It's not just Q2.
You're not limited, right? You're not limited to Q2 of 2020, comparing that to 2019. It could be 1, 2, 3, or 4, but it's of the same time period in the prior year. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And I saw that just to answer, I see Julia Caldwell was asking a question. Mike, can I step on your toes here and ask some of these questions because they're so fun?
There's no toe stepping. You go for it. You're doing great.
That's my beard is helping me, giving me superpowers. So I have my own company and no employees. What do I need to share for submission for my second PPP? So this is Julia Caldwell was asking that question. So I guess and Tenley, I don't know if you want to answer that. I've got some thoughts too.
Well, I can tell you how, typically, right, when you do have payroll, this is the first thing, this is what makes it easy for the lenders. If you have payroll, they can say, what's your average monthly payroll? And your maximum loan amount will be 2.5 times your average monthly payroll. So without payroll, if you're just independently, if you're an independent, you're an entrepreneur, you have some distribution or profits that you're able to show your lender, you're really going to have to work with your lender, frankly, to figure out, take that number of basically profit divided by 12 and multiply by 2.5. But you're going to have to, the documentation might be a little different from what a company with payroll can just supply from their payroll company. So it will really be up to the lender in terms of exactly what documentation they need. And it actually says in the rules that there are different types of documentation. And so it's sort of open to whatever you can prove, whatever you can do to prove that this is your distribution.
Yeah, the small lender that we worked with, they allowed us to use unaudited or supply unaudited financial statements in Excel. And but the one thing that they specified, now this is important, they said that the new round of FAQs from the guidance from SBA are saying they want initials. They want you to sign the first page of anything that's not an official forms like unaudited financials. Sign the first page and initial every other page. So I just initialed everything, and I signed the first page, just initialed all the forms just to be careful, because they reiterated to people, sent out an update saying that they were getting a lot of applications without that, and then they were having to reject it, which was just delaying things. So
Yeah, and in my experience, just to add on to that question, so I don't have any employees and I don't have a payroll. So essentially my calculation is based off of my distributions or my profits. And it's based off of three things as I understand it. And again, quick disclaimer, you should check with your banker, your accountant. This is, we're just giving you the information as we're learning about it. Okay. So my understanding is it's comprised of three components. It's comprised of your distribution / profits. It's comprised of your health insurance that you've paid. And then it's comprised of your retirement, money you put into retirement. And Tenley, you can correct me if I'm wrong on this.
So no, you're correct. It's just like any company that does have payroll, they can include the benefits that go into basically compensation. And so there's a whole list of those kinds of benefits.
yeah, we could get into that in a minute about what's covered in terms of expenses.
Yeah. But let me so just to finish my thought, would be, so as you on the call are calculating what amount you're eligible for. I mean, you got to go online and fill the application. It's going to kind of spit something out anyway. But let's say, for example, your business generated $100,000 of profits, and I think that's the cap. Okay, so
per person.
Per person. Let's say you're an independent, you don't have any employees, it's just you. Whether you are taking commissions and you're plugged into a back office provider, whether you're processing your own business and net your profits are 100,000. That's the max you can take. And the formula spits out where it equates to $20,833, which is 100,000 divided by 12 times 2.5. This is the formula that the government's using. It's the same formula as before. Okay. Then if you add in the amount that you paid with your health insurance, and again, I think it's divided by something, and then you add in the amount that you paid into your retirement plan. So like I have a SEP, right? I don't know how other people plan for retirement. That's a whole separate discussion. We should do that as a topic, Mike. So anyway, and then you take that whole formula, and that is the dollar amount that you are potentially eligible for and to be forgiven for. And so that's a significant amount of dollars. And so for those of you on the call that think you're not going to apply, but you're eligible, you may just think about those numbers.
Yeah, I see a lot of questions here from DJ and Donna and others. What if you're a one-person company? What if you don't use a payroll system? That's not an issue. So what Josh is saying, you take your P&L from 2020, unaudited P&L. You'll need to provide that. Like I said, I signed it, and I would encourage or suggest looking at a cash basis P&L, or look at cash versus accrual, depending on which one's going to give you the better results. You can provide that, and that's the foundation for the application, the loan. It's your based on you're capped at $100,000 of earnings, plus the other things that Josh mentioned, putting it as your SEP or insurance.
Yeah, and it's
and you work
easy
through the
to
formula.
get a report if you plug into another company, like I plug into Geiger, you plug into another company, you could just go and run a sales report comparing, each quarter, and you'll know right there, either you're down 25% or not. And that documentation is all you really need, and just to sign it and submit it as a part of the application.
Right.
Yeah, because I keep seeing a lot. What if I don't have what if I'm self-employed? What if I don't have employees? What if I don't have payroll? That's
Not in,
me.
yeah, if you're not
That's what I just
incorporated,
described.
yeah, if you're just operating, and in fact, this is a question from Jay Gill. If I'm not incorporated, just using social security number. If you're an unincorporated business, are you eligible,
Yeah,
Tenley?
sole proprietors are eligible,
Okay,
absolutely.
sole proprietor. So there you go.
Right
Yeah.
in there. Yeah,
Okay.
sole proprietor is eligible, but again, you have to find a lender who understands what documentation is acceptable. I think some of them are probably just as they're trying to figure it out too. I mean, they're used to getting the payroll. So
Uh,
they need to be,
Along those lines, I'm curious, in your experience, do you see any lenders that you recommend? I mean, or ones that are out there that are just, they've got this down and they're rolling.
I mean, they've all gotten into the game. You were supposed to be, the lenders, they started out as 7A, SBA 7A certified lenders. So SBA has a program, and this was really an amendment to that 7A program. And then I think, like PayPal, I mean, all sorts of lenders jumped in, and the government said that's okay. They didn't need to be, they didn't have to jump through all the hoops to be 7A certified, but they're like every community banks, from Wells Fargo and Bank of America to community banks, they're all
Yeah, and I've
I,
heard of several people who have gotten their PPP round 2 already processed through some online
yeah.
banks. If anyone's on the call that's gotten that done and are willing to share who those banks are, please just post it in the Q&A.
I can tell you that in round one, I've been with Wells Fargo for like 25 years now, lots of accounts with them. And it was a nightmare. It took weeks, and they couldn't even accept applications. And community lenders had things up and running in
Yeah.
days. So I switched banks as a result. I'm working with a community bank. They're responsive. I got people's, direct phone numbers. They're calling back at night. They're turning things around quickly. They answer emails. It's just night and day. So, and they've gotten me set up for the second round, and, got things submitted within 48 hours after I gave them the application. So,
Yeah, people are chiming in like Square, First Bank, First Bank of the Lake, Fountainhead, just some
B-
examples. You can check does everyone see
BMO,
the Q&A?
I think everyone can see the Q&A. Paul Eston said BMO Harris has an online application dashboard. I think you have to be a client. Um,
Okay, cool.
Most of the banks would say they will make you, and the reason for that is they have a law about beneficial ownership. They need to make sure that they know who they're dealing with. And so they need to, if you're an existing client, it's much quicker, but otherwise, they're going to have to set you up as a client and you have to prove who you are. So, but I agree with you that what we heard from our clients was it was nothing but red lights from the big banks, and all sorts of issues of affiliation, and is there foreign ownership, and everything was a reason not to go forward and fund these loans. And the community banks were doing a great job
Yeah.
jumping in and getting those disbursements out within the 10 days. So,
Tenley, I've got a question about the approval process. I'm wondering does the bank approve? Is it the bank that's doing really all the review and approval of documents, and then the SBA just rubber stamps it and issues, or is it the other way around? Because in my case, the bank took the documents, they asked a few questions to make sure I submitted everything, they approved it, and now I'm just waiting for the SBA to provide funding. It's like,
right. So it's a two-step process. The bank has zero liability, and they are relying on your certifications. So if there's any fraud, and they're certainly trying to avoid having companies pretend that they have a good P&L, or pretend that they have employees, or pretend that they even have a business that they don't have. So they're trying up front to have the banks sort of be the first line to make sure. That's why they asked you to sign the pages and all of that. But ultimately the banks have no liability. They rely on your certifications, and then they pass on the documents to SBA, and SBA will fund the loan. And frankly, if there are issues, they come up later. They're
Right.
only issues that come up sort of right up front with SBA are eligibility. And that really has to do with, do you have, let's say, a subsidiary in another country that adds another 750 employees and you're not eligible and things like that.
You were quoted in the Washington Post with an article regarding fraud and the risk issues with fraud. Can you comment on that in terms of why this round is different and why there's the greater potential for fraud?
Well, this round isn't different. What SBA has said is they will audit. They've told us at the very beginning, no one knew where SBA was going to draw the line. As time went on, SBA said, we will audit every loan amount of $2 million or more. Now, there's a different loan amount. That's another difference in this second draw. You can only get up to 4 million. You could get up to 10 million in that first draw, but any amount over 2 million will be audited. It's not a matter of triggering an audit. Everything under 2 million, depending on what your documentation looks like and your loan forgiveness, your eligibility, et cetera, you could be audited.
Okay.
So they actually sent out questionnaires to our clients. All of our clients who had loans over $2 million, and we have a lot of those clients, had to fill out very extensive questionnaires, and they ask about economic necessity. Do you really need the money? They're trying to make sure that companies aren't applying who are either non-existent, made-up employees, or really don't need the money, are being, they're public companies, or they have private investors with plenty of money that they could get access to rather than getting it from the government.
Okay.
There are a couple of questions that we definitely should get to. We're only halfway through, but they're piling up here. So one of the questions, Tenley, was, well, this is an easy one, I think. So Scott was asking about loan forgiveness, and Bank of America is telling him that there's a form that they're going to eventually send, but they haven't sent it. I mean, isn't there a simple form online you can just...
Yes, just go to SBA.gov, all the loan forgiveness forms. In fact, there was one that they just revised the form a couple of days ago. They're all on SBA's website. I try to download them as fast as they keep changing, but they revised them and frankly make them easier. And under $150,000 loan is a one-page loan forgiveness form that you can access right on the computer.
For PPP1, it's a one-page forgiveness form now?
Yep.
Okay, so they've simplified it.
$150,000.
Okay. Yeah, and I think, and now the second one is essentially, obviously it's the same thing. Second round will be a one-page forgiveness. It sounds essentially the honor system, under threat of serious penalty. So, can you speak to the penalty just briefly so everyone knows? Fraud is not a good idea. Just comply with it. It's not worth it. But what are the penalties if you?
The worst case scenario
is what? Can you lean in a little bit so we can hear you? There you go.
The worst case scenario is 30 years in prison. So
okay.
Yeah. So
that's
not terrible.
I thought it was going to be a really harsh penalty or something. I mean,
Right.
Okay.
Right. Financial penalties too. But they would have to show, with a group of entrepreneurs who are, this is not, you're not going to be targeting companies like this who are really struggling to survive and try to build a business. They're really targeting people who are making up fictitious companies, then taking the money and buying a boat or buying
right.
Something that is not helping to further a business. If you if you make mistakes because you don't spend 60% on payroll, you spend too much of it on your lease and things like that. That's not what they're looking for. They're looking for blatant fraud, and that's when people are really going to get the hammer.
Yeah. Okay.
And what about as it relates to the EIDL loan? First off, is there a second EIDL loan as a part of this second stimulus package?
That's That's a great question. I'm trying to remember if I saw a second EIDL. I actually don't know.
I don't think there is, Josh. I looked at that because I'm pretty sure there's not a second round of EIDL.
And there's no way to like roll in. If you got an EIDL your first round, you can't roll that into a PPP round 2. They're completely separate, right?
They're separate.
Yeah. But to answer Ashley's question, she got EIDL the first time. Can she apply for PPP? She can, correct, Tenley?
Yeah, there's no
relation. They're two separate programs.
Right, two separate programs, and just because you got EIDL funding doesn't mean that you can't apply. In fact, if you didn't apply for PPP in the first round, you can now apply for a first draw. You're not applying for second draw. So someone who only got the EIDL funding is applying for the first draw.
Well, wait a second. This is actually very interesting. So if, let's say I didn't apply, I'm one of the 33% on the call that didn't apply for a PPP loan at all. I could apply right now and call it a first draw?
If you're eligible, right. If you're eligible,
Really?
you don't need to meet the revenue reduction requirement. You don't need to meet, even the 300 person requirement. You can be 500 employees and have no revenue reduction, and you didn't apply the first time. You can apply the first time. You can apply for the first draw.
I didn't realize there's funding still available under that program.
So wait, can you then apply for the second draw at the same time with the?
You could have 2 weeks ago. You missed your deadline. So you could have, had you gotten, the money and spent it by March 31st over 8 weeks, then you could have applied for the second draw, let's say, prior to the close, and then gotten, received the funds, let's say April 10th. So you would have been able to do that, but the door just closed for that.
Do you think it's going to reopen?
It depends on how fast the money goes out the door. Back in March, the first amount of funds went out the door in 12 days. And that was twice as much money. Now we're down to 284 billion. I just don't know how fast the money is going to go out the door. I haven't been looking at the data. It just depends. Depends on how fast people apply for the money.
And then my last question, part 3 of my one question, Mike. You okay with me asking these questions, Mike?
Keep rocking.
Okay, just checking. Would be, there's now discussions on Capitol Hill about another round of stimulus money, right? Or is there, well, let me back up. Is there going to be stimulus money within the relief package they're talking about?
Hard to know. Hard to know, because right now the relief package that they're talking about, they look like two completely different things. What the Republicans and what the Democrats are talking about are so far apart that it's hard to know what's going to end up in there. But my guess is that there will be more funding. I mean, that's just a guess, but it looks like this is going on longer than we all expected. And, we all thought, oh, great, they have a vaccine that works. I'll have that by January. It's February already. So I think there's a possibility that because this has dragged on so long, there might be even more PPP money sometime this spring.
Wow.
Wow.
Wow. Wow. Wow, Mike.
So,
wow.
You're cracking up there, Josh. You've still got a lot of questions to go through. Here's one question is about covered expenses this time. So it's 60% of the money needs to be spent on payroll, and that's the same. But I think there's changes to the other 40% that you could spend it on. What's included now? Right.
So before it was very, you had 60%. Well, they lowered it. They started out at 75, and as you all know, right. So the 40% had to be just your rent and some utilities, and it was, sort of strict about what that other 40% could be spent on. Now it's more flexible. You can spend it on PPE and any kind of dividers and almost anything that helps your business to protect your employees from COVID and protect the public. So if you picture dividers on desks, or depending on what your business looks like, there's so many different ideas, sneeze guards and things like that. So you can spend that 40% on way more.
Apparently property damage is included too, which I assume means
Yeah.
property damage from riots.
So think about this from this entire audience has access to PPE. Okay, that's a big pivot in our industry. We could pitch our customers who are getting PPP loans on that service, right? Essentially, if they need to figure out ways to spend down their PPP money and it's PPE counts, we're a service provider of PPE. So there's a dialogue, there's a discussion there.
Right.
Sure. Always thinking about how to sell more.
You just taught me
Bring
how
more to the
code,
bottom
Mike.
line.
We've got to create a script for that.
That's really good. Let's get some of these questions, Josh.
Yeah.
Kathleen.
Hans has a question.
Okay.
Maybe you want to read it. And
Go for it.
All right, I'll read it. So he wrote, will you cover employee retention credit now that you can do both PPP and ERC, as long as you don't double dip? That's way above my pay grade. Do you understand what he's asking?
It got changed. Yeah, and it's a huge deal that in the first draw or prior to the Economic Aid Act, a company could not take advantage of both the employer retention tax credit and the PPP, and now you can. And not only can you do that now, you can actually make that retroactive back to 2020. So that's a huge economic boon for a small business.
What can you talk about that credit? What is that?
Yeah, I don't know about that either.
The employer retention tax credit means so the employer pays taxes on behalf of their employees, and they were allowed to forego, I believe it was 50%, or get their PPP. And so whatever the portion was of their employer tax payment, they were able to say, we're going to take the ERTC instead of the PPP. But now they can actually say, well, we got the PPP, but we're going to go back and it's really a tax issue. So I don't want to go too far because I've left this to the accountants, but I would just say, talk to your accountant. But now whoever asked that question knows this is a financially very good thing for a small business to ask their accountant about.
That's awesome. And this is for people who have a W-2 payroll and employees,
Right.
specific, right? Okay.
Right, but even if, right, just a couple of employees, it makes a difference. It would be worth a lot of money.
Interesting. Very interesting. Okay.
So Chris Boland has a question. It says, if I change companies since February 15th, he started a new company since then. February 15th, 2020, can he still qualify?
Did he acquire a company, or what do you mean by
he launched a new company? He had a company, he left and started up a new company.
Oh, okay.
Tenley, can you lean in? I'm sorry, we're having a hard time.
Okay, I'm sorry, what was the date?
February 15th, 2020.
Right. Okay. So he started a new business on February 15th, 2020.
Since then, yeah, after that date.
Oh, after that date. No, you had to have your company in existence by February 15th of 2020 in order to apply for PPP.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. That was they made that the cutoff because they wanted to help companies who were being hit by COVID. And they sort of thought that was about the time we all sort of became aware of it in March. So that was sort of the cutoff point.
Okay.
Yeah, and I see here, is there more on that? God, we're just getting bombarded.
No, Scott's got a question about software. So now you can include cloud computing, which is interesting. It's cloud computing software. They don't just say software. I don't. Maybe that's all there is. But anyway, cloud computing software. Can they get new software now, new cloud computing software, and expense that, or does it have to be software that they've been using, previously, right, prior to all this?
No, you can buy something new. It's all about, that comes under the authorized uses. Okay. And that's what that would be like saying you couldn't buy new rubber gloves or PPE, okay. You had to already have it. No, you can absolutely buy that new, and that becomes an authorized use.
Okay. Good question, Scott.
Yeah, there are several questions here about the 1099 status, and I can kind of answer based on my experience, and then Tenley, you can tell me how I'm wrong. Okay. So number one, again, like I'm a 1099, so I don't take a payroll. When I applied for and got forgiveness, 100% forgiveness, I guess that could be a win for me, Mike, right? 100% forgiveness. I basically showcased my bank statements, and the bank statements showcase a distribution that I made to myself and expenses that were allotted. So I guess rent, was rent one of them? Yeah.
Yes.
So I wrote a check to the landlord. I showcased that on my bank statement. I wrote a distribution check to myself. I showcased that. And so I submitted my bank statements literally. And then from that, I answered the form, the one-page form, and was forgiven. So I don't have payroll and I work from home. And then there's this other question from Shelley about new company past 2 years, started in the past 2 years, no payroll, no health insurance, work from home. Can I apply for the PPP2 as a first draw? And the answer should be yes, right?
No, that doesn't make sense. PPP 2, if you haven't applied the first time, you would apply for first draw. PPP 1.
Okay, so they're two, as far as we're concerned, are they considered two completely separate programs and separate applications?
And in fact, and there's something that we haven't even brought up, which is if you applied for the first draw, but you did not apply for the full amount, because, for example, you applied only on behalf of your staff and not yourself, which a lot of companies did. A lot of my clients did that. You can go back and increase the amount that you're applying for under the first draw because you didn't max out under the first draw and the rules are completely second. You might not even be eligible for the second draw where you have to show that 25% reduction. So the bottom line is if she has a company that she's been working on of her own for the past 2 years and never applied, she's applying for the first draw.
Okay, gotcha. Wow, there's a lot of opportunity here.
There's
a ton of opportunity.
I didn't really, but you have to be clear. If you didn't apply for PPP 1, you need to apply there first before you can go to 2.
Right.
The second round, you have to apply for the first round. If you haven't, you have to do that first. So, okay.
Well, wait. Hold on. Let me make sure I'm clear on this because now I'm not tracking. If somebody didn't go for the PPP round 1, that doesn't preclude them from doing a PPP round 2 only, does it? Or does it?
Oh, well, no, but why would you want the stricter requirements?
Okay, right. But so PPP 2 is stricter because of you have to showcase the loss.
The revenue reduction, right.
However, it's more lenient because of the write-off, the way you can use the money, no?
Well, those rules, actually, that's a great question. And I'm pretty sure those rules apply to both now.
Okay, so they're retroactively apply the updated rules to PPP 1.
Update that.
Okay, yeah, that's good to know. Okay, so bottom line, if you didn't apply for the PPP, do PPP 1.
Well, they're going to, I would say within probably days to weeks, they're going to update FAQs 1 through 53, and those will show that the authorized uses include PPE and cloud computing and all these new things, all these new expenses.
And this is actually a pretty interesting question from Courtney. What if you applied for the PPP round 1 and didn't get it? Can you go back and reapply?
Well, I guess it depends on why you didn't get it. Is there some reason the bank said missing documentation or?
Yeah, we'll have to see what she chimes in with.
For example, if the company wasn't in existence by February 15th of 2020 or something, it's not going to matter if there was some fundamental reason for the bank to turn the company down.
Gotcha. So, but along those lines, if you're a new business in 2020 and you're set up before February 15th, what are you showing? Like did you say February 15th was the cutoff?
Yeah.
So if let's say I started a company, Robert's asking in January of 2020, What am I showing to get there is no 2019 comparison.
Yeah, the rules address that, and I don't know off the top of my head. I could get back to you, but
No, Robert, check SBA. Check
Yeah.
SBA.gov, section 29, paragraph 11 to 15.
there is something you can show.
Okay, gotcha. What other questions do we have, Mike?
Okay. Paul is saying he got the round one. He used a bank to process round one, and now for round two, he's got emails from both the bank and from the SBA offering to sign up for round two. Do you recommend one? I didn't know you could go directly to the SBA. You can't.
Go through a lender.
Right. So, Paul, I think the answer is you have to go through your bank, because he was asking which one, and the answer is you go through your bank. So
Yeah,
okay.
and someone asked a question earlier about, do you go to the same bank? You don't have to, but you can go just any approved bank that's doing PPP loans, essentially.
But if they did a good job for you, for me, I'd
Show
stick
some
with them, but-
loyalty. We want our customers to show us loyalty. Bank with them, take care of them like they're taking care of you. The whole deal.
Yeah, definitely quicker and easier to use the same bank. If in my case, it was just easier. They had a familiarity. They had an account set up. It streamlined the process to go right back to those guys, the same bank. What else do we have, Josh?
We got a lot of stuff here. I'm trying to keep up, Mike. I thought you were in charge of the technology. So,
Okay.
we're gonna have a discussion afterwards. This is just ridiculous.
All right.
All right. Okay. Let's see. What other questions do we have here? I think we answered most of them. I'm scrolling as fast as I can. First PPP loan. Where do I start? Yeah,
how long does it typically take to get approval? Tenley, I think Norm is asking about this. He said he's applied several weeks ago and hasn't heard back. What should we expect?
I think Norm should go through the lender, because it's usually pretty quick and disbursement is made within 10 days. So that's the norm, 10 days.
10 days?
10 days is the norm to go. Okay.
10 days start to finish. Yeah. And in my experience, I mean, again, if the bank has any questions or there's pushback from the SBA, they're going to come back to you and ask, and like that one question about signing off on the verification for the lost revenue. And there's definitely money available, right? You said that you track that. There's money.
If you go on SBA's website, they actually have really well organized, and they have one tab that shows the data, and it shows how many loans have been made and what the dollar amount is. I forgot to look at it before this webinar, but it tells you on a pretty frequent basis. And so we'll be able to see, just like in the first round, we saw the money was going out the door and it was gone in 12 days. But so they do keep track. They know, because all the lenders have to submit to SBA. So they know, SBA knows how much. It's right on their website, easily accessible if you go on SBA's website and just put in SBA PPP data or something to that effect.
Awesome.
Scott has a follow-up question about the software. So we spoke a minute ago about expensing or including the expense of the cloud computing software. He's saying, can you use that software cost when calculating the amount of the loan?
No, the expenses have nothing to do with calculating your maximum loan amount. So that is just an authorized use. That's after you get the money, you can spend, a portion of the money that you receive, up to 40% on that software, but it has nothing to do with how much money you're going to get. How much money you're going to get has to do with that 2.5 times average monthly payroll, or in your case, profits, shall we say, or distribution.
Yeah, and we're going to we only have a couple minutes left, Mike, so I think we should probably move the conversation along. Okay. We've started to do recaps for these shows. We also have a replay on our website at theswagcoach.com/replays. So if you have more questions, Tenley, you're busy. I don't want to offer up your time more than you've taken it. So if maybe we can gather some questions and then do a follow-up, just summary email, and then we'll circulate it back out to people to be respectful of your time, which we really appreciate today.
Yeah, this is
Mike,
great.
do we have any announcements and stuff that we gotta?
The only, I think you can mention the next show coming up, but otherwise, really, it's the small group coaching. If you're interested, shoot an email to me, michael@swagcoach.com. But yeah, we're starting the onboarding for the February 2021 class is this Monday. So
do we poll the people already for that?
We did.
Okay,
Yeah.
You're that efficient. Amazing.
I'm good. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So let me just kind of mention a couple things before we wrap up. So one is our next webinar is on February 17th, and we actually have a college friend of mine actually who's a pretty big time sports announcer and sportscaster out of the Kansas City area for the Kansas City Royals, and he just wrote a book called Small Ball, Big Results, and his name is Joel Goldberg, and he's going to talk about really just how to leverage the little things to build your promo business, and teach us some tricks of the trade from a guy who's kind of been there, done that. And that's on February 17th. And then that'll be the last webinar we've got for February. And then we'll pick things up again on March 3rd with Aaron Perlet, who, Mike, I think I told you this. He's got lots of different roles, experiences. One is he is the founder of the American Mustache Institute.
You mentioned that, yeah.
And he is, he's a pretty big wig. So we're looking forward to talking with him, and he's going to talk about disrupting a commoditized market, which is definitely a market that we're in. So, any final thoughts? Anything? Mike?
Yeah. No, I just no. Smooth close, Josh. Way to go. No, I think I usually wrap by asking a guest, first steps for the for the attendees, like what do you suggest for these small business owners who are trying to sort through this? First steps they should take in terms of getting taking advantage of the funding that's available to them.
As a first step?
Yes.
That's a tough one. Actually, the first step is probably to look at the application, review the application, which is online on SBA's website. And it's very short, 2 pages, and just make sure they can make all the certifications and feel comfortable that they have the eligibility to apply.
Okay. Fantastic.
And I can say, based on my own experience as a non-authorized accountant, attorney, what have you, that most of you are eligible and should apply, in my experience. This program is set up to help small business owners like us. This is your program. So that's why I say there's a very good chance you're eligible, and to take advantage of it to help you and your families and your businesses.
All right. Very good. Let's wrap. Thanks. Thank you, Tenley, for being with us. We really appreciate it. It was very enlightening. Obviously, you spent a lot of time thinking about this, and we got a lot of questions today. So a hot topic, but appreciate you being here. So
yeah. And I just wanted to say also, Tenley, really, really appreciate it. I know you're super busy right now with all the stuff going on, and appreciate your insight. Thanks for doing what you do and tracking stuff. We didn't even get into your whole entrepreneurial background. We'll have to have you back at some point. But thank you for the time, Mike. Great job setting this up. Right. And thank you, everybody, for joining us today. Go and get your piece of this stimulus package 2.0.
Guys.
See ya.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Take care.
See ya.
Bye-bye.